Welcome back to another episode of 40 Facts About the 40K Universe. I am your host, Gershwan, and you are watching One Mind Syndicate. Today we continue talking about the Imperial Guard as we get into the Phantine Air Corps. Very different regiment than your standard Imperial Guard ground forces. If you're new to the channel, subscribe. We post Warhammer 40K content every single day. But with that said, let's get into 40 facts on the Phantine Air Corps. The Phantine Air Corps is an unusual, regiment-sized force of Imperial fighter bombers and bombers that provide dedicated air support for the ground forces of the Astra Militarum. The Phantine Air Corps is unique compared to all other regiments in that it is composed of all air and no ground forces, a specialty by virtue of their home planet of Phantine. Compared to many of the early colonized worlds of the Segmentum Solar, Phantine is a fairly young world, famously led by Saint Fidolus. The first Imperial colonists liberated Phantine and discovered tremendously rich deposits of promethium, which led them to quickly industrialize the world. Phantine's industries soon specialized in producing petrochemicals, exporting their products to many worlds. It was not long before the first hive cities began to rise from the ground. Unfortunately, after 15 standard centuries of continuous and ruthless exploitation, Phantine's refineries and other industries had rendered the world's troposphere uninhabitable. A 5,000-meter thick blanket of aerial pollution and noxious gases covered Phantine's entire surface, a dangerous and toxic sea of clouds named the Scald. To survive, Phantine's population had to resettle above the cloud line, seeking refuge on the highest mountain chains or the spire tips of the greatest hive cities. There, the Phantines erected new cities, little islands in a sea of toxic fog. This development led to the profound change in Phantine society, which through necessity came to rely almost entirely on aviation for trade and transportation. Formerly dedicated to the production of petrochemicals, Phantine's manufacturers now turned to energy production, erecting great steam mills and center power plants that formed the beating heart of the new airborne society. By necessity, to protect them from the corrosive atmosphere, Phantine cities are sealed off from their environment, thus warranting cycles of artificial rain within their confines. Many large cities also feature great panels of armored glass. Due to the lack of landmass, Phantine has to import most of its food and materials from the wider Imperium. These are usually transported from city to city in great gas-filled aerostats, many kilometer-long flying behemoths that observers compare to the ancient zeppelins of old Earth. Many of these aerostats have also been converted for military use and act as flying air bases for Phantine's planetary defense force. While difficult to assail due to their planet's topography, Phantine cities are by no means fortresses designed to withstand sustained assault. Typically, Phantine cities consist of several interlinked habdomes where the population lives, and a center steam-based power plant for energy production. Landing fields, secondary steam centrals, waste incinerators, or refineries are often located on the city's exterior, connected to the main habdomes by great conduits or causeways that are located above the cloud line. The habdomes themselves also feature great terraces used by the inhabitants to move from place to place within the city. The domes are studded with anti-air defense guns, as well as gangways, in order to inspect the dome's physical integrity after one of the many acid storms that periodically assaults the settlement of Phantine. The strange mixture of airborne chemicals frequently causes electromagnetic storms in the depths of the Scald, whose layers are also prone to spontaneous combustion. Such an event lends the Scald an eerie and strange glow that has often been interpreted as a bad omen by the people of Phantine. The upper layers of the Scald frequently erupt into violent storms that can wash away the more precarious cities and force the aerostats to take unexpected detours from their standard routes. In the past, Phantine was once a verdant world, harboring hundreds of thousands of different species, but the toxic vapors of the Scald have either killed or profoundly affected Phantine's biodiversity. Worst affected was Phantine's flora, which proved unable to evolve quickly enough to escape the suffocating and toxic vapors of pollution. Nowadays, the only traces of vegetation on Phantine can be found within the hermetically sealed cities, and more specifically the upper-class levels of the primary habitation domes, where Phantine's elite live. On those levels, the wealthiest men and women have preserved some parts of their world's native trees amongst well-kept gardens, which were sometimes decorated by artificial lakes. However, outside of the habdomes, Phantine's wildlife has been profoundly affected by the world's industrial poisoning. At ground level, nothing survived, and only airborne specimens were able to follow Phantine's population into safety. Over the following standard millennia, a rudimentary ecosystem established itself around the great Phantine dome cities. At the lowest level of this ecosystem are located the thermovores, small slug-like creatures that colonize the outer walls of Phantine's dome cities, especially around the impressive vents of the thermal power plants. Thermovores feed on the vapors given off by the thermal plants and the small metallic particles dissolved by the world's continuous acid rainstorms. Thermovores secrete a thick, acid-resistant slime that protects them from the more dangerous features of Phantine's climate. Several smaller predators roam the city's exteriors, all of which are winged and feed on each other or the humble thermovores. But the mightiest beast of Phantine's skies lives within the toxic miasma of the scald, the sky shark. This almost legendary beast is universally recognized as the alpha predator on Phantine, but very little information is available on it. Its exact wingspan and shape are unknown, and the Phantine avoided at all cost. As for the inhabitants of Phantine, the society widely conforms to the imperial culture of other civilized worlds that share the same level of population and technology. In stark contrast to the society on most hive worlds, there is no lower caste or underhive scum, as every member of society is deemed valuable to the continued survival of the world's dome cities. Phantine is not ruled by a single imperial governor, as is customary, but by an assembly of elected officials who comprise the World Senate. Its office holders go by the title of senator, and invariably live a life of luxury in large estates on the upper levels of the habdomes, their great palaces or villas surrounded by well-tended gardens and orchards. These estates often mark the sole trace of greenery in the Phantine city. Other influential personalities, such as the high-ranking officers of the Planetary Defense Force and members of the imperial clergy, share the same level of accommodation and together form the Phantine's ruling elite. Just below this group are the high-ranking adepts of the other imperial adepta, such as the Adeptus Administratum and the Adeptus Arbitus. The Adeptus Mechanicus maintains a discreet presence on Phantine. The few tech priests required to maintain Phantine's power plants and refineries also never leave the compounds they have been assigned to. Crime, often uncontrollable on more populous imperial worlds, is notoriously low on Phantine. The layout of its cities and the lack of land-based access routes considerably facilitate the Adeptus Arbitus task of maintaining order, so that the Phantine has not had to rely on the auxiliary corps of enforcers. Amongst common people, pilots are held in the highest regard, be they simple soldiers of the Planetary Defense Force or a member of a highly respected Phantine Air Corps. Second in regard are the Planetary Defense Force's airborne soldiers, who serve aboard the great military aerostats that act as mobile bases. Finally, the steam mill and power plant workers, on which the great cities rely, are held as an elite group because without their labor, the dome cities would cease to exist. A Phantine citizen's social rank can be determined from the location of their home, as the most humble are forced to live on the exterior rim of the habdomes. Several great Phantine cities, such as Orenburg, have several smaller habdomes exclusively dedicated to residences for the steam mill and power plant workers, while to prevent accidents, the city's refineries and other chemical plants are often located on separate platforms located outside the protected habdomes. Given to Phantine's unique nature, the order of battle common to most regiments of the Astra Militarum do not apply to the Phantine Air Corps. Instead, the Air Corps closely follows the organization of the Imperial Navy, the military branch of the Imperium of Man, with most experience in regards to aircraft and their deployment. The Phantine Air Corps is a mixed regiment where female pilots and even officers are commonplace and benefit from the same level of respect as their male colleagues, something which is relatively rare in the conservative and often hidebound hierarchy of the Imperial Navy. The main tactical unit within the Phantine Air Corps is the Wing, roughly equivalent to the Imperial Navy Squadron. Each wing benefits from its own support detachment of ground crew and technicians, which makes the Phantine Air Corps a highly flexible formation, a flexibility it often desperately needs in battle. Depending on its specialization, bombardment, reconnaissance, or interception, a wing is comprised of 8 to 12 aircraft, in addition to the squadron's leader's own craft. Each wing is led by a commissioned officer, who usually carries the rank of wing commander, often shortened simply to commander. It is customary for the wing commander to select a second-in-command, known as an executive officer, within the Phantine Air Corps, from the pilots serving under him or her. Each wing can be further broken down into lesser formations, known as flights, for missions that do not need the full strength of the entire wing, such as routine patrols. When in combat, a commander's will is law over his wing, while strategic deployment of the entire Air Corps is determined by the officers who comprise the Phantine High Command. The Phantine High Command is autonomous from both the hierarchy of the Imperial Navy, which has no authority over any Imperial Guard unit, and from the other larger Astra Militaris, which lacks the expertise and tactical knowledge to deploy aircraft wisely. This unusual command autonomy has led to considerable tensions within both the Navy and the Guard, and as a result, the personnel of the Phantine Air Corps often keep to themselves. The Enochian War holds a special place in the history of the Phantine Air Corps, as it was one of the unit's first great victories, as well as the first time an officer from Phantine was put in command of an entire Imperial war zone. Much like Phantine itself, the civilized world of Enothis had come under attack by the forces of chaos, led by one of the most notorious generals, Magister and Kawarna Sect. The Chaos Cultists gained control of the southern Trinity Hive cities and pushed to the north, where they were met by the Enothian Planetary Defense Force. Bolstered by elements of the Sabbath World Crusade, the Imperium pushed back, but after more than 200 solar days of fighting, the Imperial forces suffered a grievous defeat at the gates of the Trinity Hive. Unknown to the Imperium, the archenemy had received powerful reinforcements, including several regiments of blood-packed troopers and Sek's own cadre of elite fighter pilots, while the assembled might of several armored and mechanized regiments of the Imperial Guard and a sizable portion of Enothis' own planetary defense forces fought a desperate retreat through the interior desert. Harassed constantly by enemy ground and air forces, the war shifted from land to sky. By direct order of War Master Makaroth, Grand Admiral Ornoff of the Phantine Air Corps was put in charge of the Enothis war zone. Several wings of the Phantine Air Corps were immediately deployed to Enothis on the war's 250th day. In a great redeployment, the Imperial Navy and the Phantine Air Corps replaced the outgunned and outclassed air force of the Enothian Commonwealth, which were being slowly whittled down by the enemy Hellblade, Helltalon fighters, and the fighter bombers. In a protracted and bitter delaying action against the forces of the archenemy, the Imperial aircraft covered the retreat of the Imperial ground forces to the planetary capital city. Having constructed mobile ground-based land carriers for its aircraft, the archenemy's counteroffensive almost caught up with the Imperial retreat before the troops were successfully evacuated amphibiously from the southern shores of the sea. After the retreat, the Imperium's air assets relocated to a series of well-defended air bases located on several islands to the sea. What was later called the Battle of the Sophonian Sea, the archenemy launched all of its remaining aircraft against the hopelessly outnumbered Imperial formations. Yet, through remarkable determination and bloody sacrifice, the Imperial line held. By the 270th day of the conflict, the enemy's will had been broken thanks to the heroic efforts of all the Imperial squadrons, especially the Phantine 20. With new reinforcements allotted to Enothis by the Crusade High Command, the archenemy's offensive on Enothis was successfully repelled and finally defeated at the Second Battle of the Trinity Hives. Unfortunately, despite the final Imperial victory, Magister Sect managed to evade capture and flee the planet. And those were 40 facts on the Phantine Air Corps. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. It's a big change from the regular Imperial Guard lore videos, where we talk mostly about the regiment itself. But when it comes to this regiment, the fact that there are no ground forces really changed things up. And I think the most interesting part about this entire regiment is the fact that its planet is very unique. I think of the mini wargaming terrain board, the one with the flying rocks and stuff. That would be really badass to play on for a battle that has the Phantine Air Corps. Not many people use flyers within our play group, so dog fights and stuff like that don't really happen when we play the game. But I know GW came out with a game, was it last year, where it came with I think Eldar and Imperial fighters, and the game was completely, the box set was completely about fighting in the air. I really want to create some orc flyers and eventually battle some of my friends. I know the Sound Alchemist, he doesn't have any flyers, but the Tau do have flyers, I think. And we have a Necron player that uses a lot of sights, So that would be interesting to just have like dogfights in the air and stuff with him. Comment down below, let me know what flyers are good, and could the Orc flyers stand up to Necron flyers? Yeah, comment down below. If you guys have any other suggestions for topics of Warhammer 40k, if you guys want to suggest any other regiments, please comment down below. And thanks for listening, guys. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. It really helps out the channel when you do. And if you want to support us a little bit more, jump on over to Patreon. A simple $1 a month helps us create more videos for you guys. If you can't, we understand. Simply by liking, commenting, and sharing, it helps out the channel. But with that said, I'll talk to you tomorrow. This was Gershwin with One Mind Syndicate signing out.